I've seen a lot of people talking about battery problems with the Pixel 10 Pro series, so I thought let's put it into the test. Today, I'm doing a full day in the live comparison between the Pixel 10 Pro XL and the Galaxy S25 Ultra, checking not just the battery, but also the camera and performance. I charged both phones to 100% overnight, and as you can see, they both have a large display. The Galaxy is 6.9 inches and the Pixel is 6.8 inches. They both have a 120Hz variable refresh rate, and the PWM is 480Hz. The Galaxy is surprisingly lighter. It weighs 218 grams, and it is a bit edgy. There are 4 cameras on the back of the device. The Pixel is heavier at 232 grams since it also has magnets inside now. The design is more curvy, and the camera housing looks nice, I would say, and houses 3 cameras. Design is a bit subjective, but I would say the Pixel is more unique than the Galaxy. While I was making myself coffee, I put both phones to play YouTube on Wi-Fi. The phones are on the adaptive brightness during the whole test. By the end of the test, the Galaxy was at 97% and the Pixel at 96%. They both have 2 out of 4 antennas. I packed my stuff to go out to the city. One nice feature of the Galaxy is the anti-reflective screen, which means you get fewer reflections and more visibility on the sunlight. I put both phones to navigate my way using Google Maps. The Pixel 10 Pro XL has this new 100x zoom feature that uses generative AI to enhance the picture, and it works after 30 times zoom. If you zoom up to 30 times, I would say the Galaxy is doing a better job in this picture. The same also applies to 100x zoom if we don't zoom the new Pixel feature. But with the new AI zoom, the Pixel can make the subject nice even at 100 times zoom. What the Pixel is not doing great at though is the video and stabilization. The videos, especially in such weather, are a bit too contrasty for my taste, and stabilization is not top notch. I would say the Galaxy is doing a better job here, both in terms of colors and stabilization. But write down in the comments if you agree with me. For this picture on the main lens, interestingly, the Pixel is the one that is vivid, while the Galaxy colors are more washed out. For the ultra-wide shot, the Galaxy is more vivid, while the Pixel has a more contrasty and dramatic look. I arrived at the cafe called Bread and Coffee, and surprise surprise, Tanya also joined me for a coffee before her rehearsal for the new opera. Right now, both the Galaxy and Pixel are at 92% battery. The picture of the coffee on both phones have a similar quality, which is not surprising since they both use a similar spec main camera, but the color science differs. I noticed generally the Galaxy skin tone is warmer, while the Pixel has more magenta in it. They also both have portrait mode of course, but Pixel portrait mode still needs some love since it is very aggressive in cutting the hair. But overall, they are both more than capable of taking nice looking pictures as long as there is enough light in the scene. They can also both take portrait video, but the Pixel is capped at Full HD only. And another 10x zoom picture of Tanya here. The quality is not drastically different, but the skin tone is again yellowish versus magenta. Also, I noticed the Pixel generally tends to more uniformly expose the picture a bit compared to the Galaxy. I also saw this interesting building that shows flags of all states in Austria, and I thought to share it with you. They can both also take macro shots. The macro shot of the Galaxy, in my opinion, has better processing here, and the Pixel is a bit too exposed. We went inside to buy a birthday card for our friend, and here the Galaxy completely missed the mark with their skin tone. Generally, I do find the Galaxy struggles a bit on their warm tone indoor colors. For pictures, it is doing a better job though, and here the roles are reversed. The Pixel is this time with a warmer and orange tone. The Pixel selfie camera is hands down better, both in terms of quality and colors, and the fact that it is much wider than the Galaxy, so you can fit much more in it. The Pixel ultra-wide camera is also wider, even if only slightly. I also bought this card just in case I need to apologize at some point to someone later. Right now, the Galaxy is at 82%, while the Pixel is at 86%. Both have the same antenna level, but the Galaxy is a bit warmer simply because the Galaxy tends to use more power when taking a video and processing images. Tanya went to rehearsal, and I went to Santur, my favorite Persian restaurant. On the wall, they have a poem from my favorite poet, Khayyam, that roughly translates to drink wine, for eternal life is this. Be joyful a moment, for life is only this. And here, both pictures turn out nice. Of course, again, the Pixel is slightly more exposed and brighter. While eating, I put both phones to play YouTube on 5G. By the time I finished, the Galaxy was at 74%, while the Pixel was at 76% battery. I then put both phones to track my activity of going back home with Komoot, so the GPS works a bit. I took the streets in Vienna and went to Danube. I stopped to take a picture of these power plants that turns trash into heating. With 10 times zoom, both have similar quality. I do find the Galaxy picture a tad sharper though. I continued my journey back home, crossed the Danube, and enjoyed this lovely sunny weather in Vienna. One advantage of the Galaxy is that it also has a 3 times zoom, while the Pixel lacks that. Therefore, in 3 times zoom in 4K, the Galaxy has the upper hand, but the Pixel has a secret weapon, and that's the video boost. The video is processed in the cloud, and the quality improvement is shocking. The Pixel video is now sharp, detailed, and stable. The Pixel cannot do one thing though, and that's shooting in log. For example, I took this video in log with the Galaxy S25 Ultra in native 8K and color graded it to give it a retro Fujifilm look. By the time I got back home, the Galaxy was at 58%, while the Pixel was at 59% battery. The Galaxy is running OneUI 7, but the OneUI 8 update is just around the corner. The Pixel is running Android 16 with Material Expressive. There are some positive changes in Android 16. For example, turning on and off and changing Wi-Fi and Bluetooth devices is now easier. OneUI is often more feature-rich. For example, when you play music, you get this bar on the top that you can interact with, whereas on the Google Pixel, you have to bring down the notification bar. Or, for example, you get the AI Writing Assist tool on the Galaxy, where you can select any text and it will translate it for you, or summarize it and fix the grammar. On the other hand, the more feature on OneUI makes the phone look more complicated. And that can also bring fatigue. Pixel UI, in my opinion, is simpler, and you may prefer that simplicity. To test the thermals, I ran the game that I wrote with a Unity game engine, which is just a bunch of cubes colliding with particles. This way I can keep everything the same. I ran the game for around half an hour, and by the end of it, the Galaxy got around a degree hotter than the Pixel, but that's negligible. For performance, I ran 2 simple benchmarks. The first one was the Wildlife Extreme test, which tests the performance of 3D games. The Galaxy got 6,437, while the Pixel got 3,228, almost half of the Galaxy. Then I ran Geekbench. Here, the Galaxy on single core got a 25% better score, and on multi-core got around a 50% better one. I know there are people always saying these benchmarks don't mean much, but I respectfully disagree. There could be situations where performance doesn't matter, like opening Chrome or watching YouTube, and situations where performance is more related to a storage and RAM speed, like changing or opening applications. But for heavy use cases like multitasking, gaming, video editing, and even video and image processing, these benchmarks are important. Both ones have 45-watt top charging speed. The Pixel has Pixel Snap and is up to 25 watts wireless charging, which is great. For the Galaxy, that wireless charging speed is only up to 15 watts, and you also need a MagSafe case like this one. The problem with most of these cases is that they interfere with the S Pen. There are a few brands like MagBack that don't interfere, or the one I'm using here from Pitaka, where the interference is minimal. I put the link of everything I just showed in the description. It was getting dark and I went to watch the sunset and buy some stuff. The color processing on the 2 phones during sunset could not be more different. Neither of them is really accurate, and it is more of a personal choice which one you prefer. The Pixel is really good at balancing the shadows though, and on the Galaxy, most of the time, the picture is too dark. I also took pictures of this fancy cat with 5 times zoom, and I find the Pixel picking a better shutter speed and being less blurry. For video with the telephoto lens, they are rather close, and it is difficult to tell the difference other than the fact that Pixel video looks sharper than the Galaxy. I went to buy some bananas, and was a bit shocked that bio bananas now cost €2.49 per kilo. Write down in the comments how much bananas cost in your country. When I went out, it was already sunset, and as you can see, the Galaxy is not doing great at retaining the info in the picture, whereas the Pixel is doing better HDR processing. It got completely dark, and this picture at night with the main lens, they are close, but the Pixel has the upper hand by capturing the color of the grass more accurately. On the other hand, the Galaxy handled the sky nicer, and the reflection of the moon on the Pixel is a bit annoying. iPhone also has this reflection issue on their phones, and I wonder if they fix it on iPhone 17. I'll test that next week, so subscribe to not miss that video and the comparison of iPhone to Pixel and Galaxy. Both phones can also take Astro shots, but here the Pixel is doing it better, especially when I try to process the raw image in Adobe Lightroom. The Pixel had much better dynamic range and more info for processing the image compared to the Galaxy. By the time I got back home, the Galaxy was at 35%, while the Pixel was at 38% battery. I put both phones to talk to each other on Wi-Fi using Google Meet. So far, it seems the Pixel is having better battery life compared to the Galaxy. I know a lot of people may be skeptical about this result since in GSM Arena and some other sources the Pixel does not show strong numbers, but it is important to note which testing conditions the phones were in. For example, the Galaxy has a more power-hungry processor. That alone means the phone uses more power in demanding tasks like taking a video, and I did measure that with my app. Meanwhile, the Pixel relies on video boost and the cloud to process the video. In all other tasks, the power consumption is very close. At the end of the day, after using the Galaxy for around 4 hours and the Pixel a bit longer for 4 hours and 60 minutes, the Galaxy was at 23%, while the Pixel was at 28% battery. This result may be surprising for some, but it makes total sense to me. This year, the Pixel 10 Pro XL is an excellent choice. It does not have heating issues at all based on my test, and the video boost and 100x zoom pictures are both amazing. The ultra-wide camera and selfie are also better on the Pixel compared to the Galaxy. The processor is not great performance-wise, but at least it is efficient. The Galaxy is still a GOAT. The S Pen and the anti-reflective display are things you don't find in any other phone. The video quality is better if you don't consider the video boost feature on the Pixel. OneUI is more feature-packed, and you often get great deals for this phone. You can also opt for other versions of the Pixel 10, like the Pixel 10 Pro or the Pixel 10 base models. You can watch the comparison of the 10 Pro XL versus the Pixel 10 Pro and Pixel 10 next. Thanks for tuning into Tecmo, and I will see you in the next one.